Hello and welcome to Bust or Trust, a kids' mystery podcast. I'm Tiernan.
And I'm Athena. We unravel the world's greatest mysteries with help from you, our chief detectives.
We present 3 pieces of evidence and then it's up to you to decide. Which team will you be on in this episode?
Are you a myth buster like me?
Or are you a myth truster like me? We look into some very strange stories from around the world. No mystery is too big for us. Like, why does an apple a day only keep the doctor away? Why not also the plumber or your teacher? What if I throw it really, really hard?
Tiernan, it's not about throwing an apple. It's an old proverb that means if you eat healthy foods, then you might not get sick, so you don't have to see the doctor.
Uh-oh. I might need to call my doctor and apologise then. We'll let you know at the end of the show just how to get in touch to tell us if you're on Team Buster or the best one, Team Truster.
So, Chief Detectives, it's time to start putting together your case. But first, we have a quick word for the grown-ups.
Well, hello there, grown-ups. Did you know that we depend on your generosity and support to keep making Bust or Trust?
If you subscribe and support Bust or Trust on Patreon or Apple Podcasts, you'll get access to lots of lovely extras like weekly subscriber bonus episodes with extra evidence, ad-free listening and early access to all our episodes. More to come soon.
To support Bust or Trust, just click subscribe in Apple Podcasts or visit patreon.com/Bust or Trust podcast. Or for more information, visit our website at bustortrust.com.
The case.
Athena, do you know what Amphere Lith Mor means?
Oh, it's not a great name for your band, Tin, and please stop asking me, and no, I won't be in it.
Oh, not even on drums? Ugh. But no, Amphere Lith Mor is Scottish Gaelic for big grey man, and this week's case is all about the mystery of the big grey man of Ben MacDui.
A big grey man called Ben MacDui?
No, he's just known as the big grey man, or grey man for short. I have no idea what his actual name is. He's a human-looking creature that haunts the summit, which is the top of the mountain called Ben MacDui. This particular summit is also the highest peak of the Cairngorms, a mountain range in the eastern highlands of Scotland.
Oh, maybe it's just a lost, very tall grandparent who needs a lift home. Imagine being lost on a mountain without even a snack to munch. Oh, he's probably just hangry.
Well, I guess he's been haunting the summit of a mountain for over 100 years, so I reckon he would be pretty hangry. That's a long time to wait to get picked up. But even if he were hangry, a rogue grandparent on the loose on a mountaintop would feel like a nice thing to find, wouldn't it? All friendly and cuddly and chasing you for a hug. But the grey man is most often described as an eerie presence or ghost-like figure, stalking climbers in the mist as they approach the mountain's summit, spreading feelings of unease and generally spooking people out. Few eyewitnesses have seen the grey man, but those who have reported him to be very thin and 10 feet tall, with dark skin and hair, long arms and broad shoulders.
Oh, okay, that does sound a bit freaky. But there's lots of stories like this in folklore. In fact, it sounds a lot like a similar figure in Welsh mythology called Brenin Clwyd, who also hung out at the top of mountains and liked to spook people out in the mist. It was said he liked to chase children, but I think it's just a myth to get children from olden times to stay away from misty mountains.
I didn't realise Misty Mountains was such a fun place for kids. What on earth would they have to do on top of a mountain?
Ooh, maybe they're just good kids who like to visit their abandoned grandparents and bring them a snack. Whatever it is, as always, we need to leave this one to our chief detectives to decide. Should we believe in the big grey man of Ben MacDui, or is it a load of Ben MacHooey?
I think our chief detectives will find this is a big, great case to investigate.
Oh.
On to piece of evidence number 1.
First piece of evidence.
The first piece of evidence comes from a man named John Norman Colley, who says he saw the grey man way back in the year 1891, over 130 years ago. John Colley was a man of science, a professor, and a member of the Royal Geographical Society, which is a club for people who like to study science of the natural world. So he was much more of a science person than someone who believed in supernatural things like ghosts or monsters. Being a fan of geography, John Colley also liked to hike. And on this particular occasion, he hiked right up to the summit of none other than the mountain of Ben MacDui. In 1925, John Colley spoke about this very experience to the 27th annual general meeting of his hiking club in Aberdeen. And this is what he said. I was returning from the summit in a mist when I began to think I heard something else than merely the noise of my own footsteps. Every few steps I took, I heard a crunch, and then another crunch, as if someone was walking after me, but taking steps 3 or 4 times the length of my own. I said to myself, this is all nonsense. I listened and heard it again, but could see nothing in the mist. As I walked on and the eerie crunch sounded behind me, I was seized with terror and took to my heels, staggering blindly among the boulders for 4 or 5 miles, nearly down to Rothimercus Forest. Whatever you make of it, I do not know, but there is something very queer about the top of Ben MacDui, and I will not go back there again.
It sounds like he definitely heard something strange, but did he actually see a grey man? He hasn't mentioned anything about who he saw, or even if he saw anyone or anything.
That's exactly how other people reacted to him back then too. The account caused a debate amongst the mythbusters and trusters of the time. People thought John Colley's story was true because he was a trustworthy scientist. Actually, after hearing his story, others felt brave enough to share theirs too. It seems he was not the only one to have experienced strange hauntings and eerie feelings on Ben MacDui. A man named Hugh D. Welsh came forward, saying that he also had a frightful encounter on Ben MacDui when he was hiking with his brother in 1904. He described hearing slurring footsteps night and day, as if someone was walking through wet gravel. He said he and his brother both felt frequently aware of something near them, which made them feel nervous and fearful.
Okay, so 3 people, none of whom have seen anyone or anything, and they said they had a feeling about some sort of presence. Oh, that's pretty weak evidence.
But more and more people started coming forward with stories that supported the descriptions given by our original man, John Colley. Strange noises, an eerie presence, uneasy feelings, and then this description in 1943 from naturalist and mountaineer Alexander Tiernan. He says, I spent a 10-day leave climbing alone in the Cairngorms. One afternoon, just as I reached the summit of Ben MacDui, mist swirled across the Lairig Ghru and enveloped the mountain. The atmosphere became dark and oppressive. A fierce, bitter wind whisked among the boulders and an odd sound echoed through the mist. A loud footstep, it seemed. Then another. And another. A strange shape loomed up, receded, came charging at me. Alexander then ran for his life, convinced he had witnessed the fear left more. And my truster instincts are right there with him.
Well, I only trust my buster instincts, and they are not convinced. But these so-called eyewitnesses do tell a good scary story, that's for sure.
But
there could be another way to explain this experience. Imagine, all these hikers must have been very tired when they got to the top of the mountain. Fatigue, which is mental and physical tiredness, is known to affect human judgment. It is scientifically proven that fatigue can lead to hallucinations or seeing things that aren't there. With nobody else around to confirm what they saw or heard, these experiences could just be their imagination.
But so many people experiencing exactly the same thing. Come on, that's no coincidence. Maybe piece of evidence number 2 will help clear the fog.
Second piece of evidence.
Piece of evidence number 2 is Sounds of the Grey Man.
Oh, this isn't another band name, is it? I don't like that one either.
Oh, really? But no. In 1948, one witness described hearing an intensely high singing note on top of the mountain.
Ooh, maybe it was someone auditioning for your band.
Oh, good point. We do need a singer. But these sounds aren't just sounds. Witnesses that heard the noises said it gave them intense feelings of dread and unease, as if being watched by the bogeyman. Whatever the grey man is, he spreads grey vibes too. Someone really needs to cheer him up.
Oh, okay. Yes. I think what you're describing could be scientifically explained phenomena called infrasound. Infrasound is a term that describes sounds that exist at a lower frequency than people can hear. This type of sound can occur naturally in severe weather conditions.
Like bad weather on a mountaintop.
Bingo! Humans don't knowingly hear infrasounds, but they might be able to feel them through a part of the body called the human vestibular system, which is a sensory system shared by humans and many animals. It forms part of the inner ear and creates a sense of balance and awareness of your surroundings. If infrasonic sounds can tap into the system without us even knowing, then it may be affecting how we experience reality, including our hearing, vision, and our other senses.
Brr, the thought gives me shivers.
I know, right? In fact, there is a sound known as the fear frequency. It can affect humans in several ways, causing discomfort, fearfulness, and unease. It's possible that this overwhelming feeling of dread associated with the grey man's evil presence could be related to this fear frequency.
Ooh, fear frequency. Now that's a good band name. No?
No.
Ugh. OK. Well, it is definitely true that these witnesses are frequently fearful, and I bet you would be too, given our third piece of evidence.
Third piece of evidence.
Our third piece of evidence is the Grey Man himself. He's not called the Big Grey Man for nothing. He's always described as an immensely tall giant with long arms and legs and who's capable of moving very, very fast. Cast your mind back to 1791 when shepherds had to herd their sheep over the mountains.
They still do that now, don't they?
Oh, really? I thought they just controlled the sheep from their tablets.
You do know what a sheep is, right?
Not really. I tried to count them, but I just fall asleep. Anyway, the Scottish poet James Hogg was peacefully shepherding his flock of sheep through the misty mountains when, out of nowhere, an enormous figure of a man suddenly appeared. He described the Grey Man like a giant, at least 30 feet high and equally proportioned, and very near to me. He goes on to say he was struck powerless in the moment with astonishment and terror. Imagine that.
This giant, grey-looking human figure, that sounds a lot like his own shadow.
Scared of your own shadow? Typical. You're always throwing shade, Athena.
Okay, so there is definitely one quite strong, plausible explanation for this giant, human-like monster. Something known as a Brocken spectre. Brocken is the name of a mountain peak in Germany where this spooky spectacle was first observed and described.
Germany is a long way from Scotland. Did the Grey Man send his giant friends to Germany for a haunting party?
No, it's a magical trick of light, also known as an optical illusion. It's created when the sun shines on a cloud just right and makes shadows look enormous. It's like how the sun casts your shadow in front of you late in the day. It makes you look like you have the world's longest body.
Well, OK, I guess your theory has legs. But how does a shadow move from far away to close in a single giant step?
Oh, this theory has extremely long legs. If you have clouds moving really fast in high winds, which can happen on a mountaintop, you might find your shadow jumping around very close by, as if it's next to you. So yes, this could be a possible explanation for the Grey Man's giant steps. At least more plausible than random giants spooking shepherds.
Or kids playing on mountains. I still can't figure out the appeal myself.
Oh, I don't know. I think it could be the beginning of a whole new children's craze.
Get the family right on down to Rock City, a new adventure just off Junction 22 of the M62.
Yay, Rock City!
Soft play is for babies. Rock City is the world's first rough play, where you can climb, scrabble, huddle for warmth to protect from the harsh mountain winds, and whatever you do, be careful or... Yee ouch.
I've been on the rock slides 37 times today. It's so much fun, even if I don't have a bum anymore.
Yeah, we've been bringing the kids here every weekend since it opened. Last week there was an avalanche and we all had to be airlifted off by our rescue team. The kids loved it.
I've been living on this mountain for years waiting to eat horrid children. As an ogre, it's made such a difference to my life that they now visit the area and I can just grab them and chomp. Oh, I've always wanted a delivery service round here.
Who needs rides or refreshments when you can rock?
Please, I'm really cold and hungry.
Rock City, now with all new pebble area for babies and a cave you can put a dog in, but only one. Crampons not provided. You won't be allowed in unless you can sign a waiver saying we're not responsible for you falling off a rock or being crushed by a rock or eating a rock or being forgotten and having to live as a rock for the rest of your life. Rock City, it rocks and absolutely nothing else.
I think I prefer Legoland myself.
I don't know. I think I'd be worried about taking my shoes off to go to Legoland just as much as Rock City.
Oh, that is true. There's no need for our chief detectives to tiptoe around the evidence, though. It's time for them to solve the mystery of the Big Grey Man of Ben MacDui. Is he an evil giant haunting the mountaintop?
Or a folkloric figure of imagination? Time for an evidence recap.
Evidence recap.
The first piece of evidence is the large number of eyewitness accounts describing a ghost-like presence that haunts the summit of Ben MacDui, terrifying hikers.
But these accounts are frequently told by people who are alone on the mountaintop, with nobody to share or confirm their experience.
Our second piece of evidence is the terrifying sounds made by the big grey man. Reports of crunching steps following lone hikers and even something singing at a very high pitch. Witnesses also report feeling very uneasy, as if they're in the presence of something evil.
The natural phenomena of infrasound is a likely answer here. This is a frequency of sound too low to be heard by humans, but it has the ability to affect our senses, including our hearing and feeling.
The third piece of evidence is the terrifying appearance of the grey man himself. A gigantic human-looking monster so big he can be far away and suddenly right beside you in a single stride.
This gigantic monster may just be a plain old human shadow projected by strong light onto fast-moving clouds.
So now we're handing it over to you, Chief Detectives.
What do you think? Are you a grey man myth buster?
Or a grey man myth truster? We want to hear from you, and most importantly, which side you're on. Without a shadow of a doubt, Team Truster will peak this one.
No way. Given all the evidence, Team Buster has an advantage of giant proportions. Giant. Send us your voice notes with an explanation of why you're a myth truster or myth buster when it comes to whether the big grey man of Ben MacDui exists or not.
All you have to do is ask your grown-ups to help you email us your voice notes or thoughts to hello@bustortrust.com.
Tell us your name, age, what you think all the evidence means, and please make sure your grown-ups give us permission to use your voice notes or emails in our next episode.
You can also send us a question on Spotify Q&A, but please get permission from your parents and don't include any personal details so we can publish them safely. We won't always be able to use all of them.
But we do love to hear them, and here are some thoughts from you, our amazing Chief Detectives, on the last few episodes.
Hi, I am Pippa, age 8 from New Zealand. I think the haunted doll named Okiku is true because it might miss the family after it died.
Hi, Pippa. Thanks so much for listening to our show all the way in New Zealand. And I agree. Whenever I miss someone, I grow my hair. So I totally agree with you. I think Okiku must be real. Thanks so much for listening.
Well, I've got really long hair, and I don't think I miss anyone right now.
Yeah, but technically, while I've gone, your hair does grow. So that must be it.
I can't argue with that.
Win for Team Truster. Thanks, Pippa. We've got this message from Hen and Chips on the Spotify Q&A about our episode on the third person factor. They say they're a truster because bust is sad and bad. It makes me mad. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Why be sad and bad and make people mad when you could just be on Team Truster and be much, much happier?
Isabella has left a comment after listening to the Montezuma's Treasure episode. I'm in Team Buster for sure. Sorry, Tiernan, but you can't just hear some news on the sport and trust it immediately. And did you help with their episode in Koala Moon this week? Bye. Well, let's take it backwards. Yes, we did help.
Yes,
Thanks
we
for
did.
listening. Yeah, we were with our Koala Moon buddies. And we read out a nice bedtime story. You should check it out. And Tiernan, did you hear? You can't just hear some news on the sport and trust it. You have to get evidence and use that to make your mind up.
Hang on a minute. So does that mean if I watch the sports news, I can't trust it?
Yes.
Wow, that's going to change a lot. I was going to watch all of the Olympics this summer, but maybe none of it's real. Thanks, Isabella.
Thanks to all of you. I think we've got the best listeners in the world.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed the show, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more great episodes. We love to hear what you think, so please do rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps more detectives find, bust or trust. And of course, we'll read out some of them on the show.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time for some more Bust or Trust.
Okay, Athena, how about this band name?
Go on.
The Trusters. Like it?
Yeah, there's a big problem with that name.
Oh no, really? What is it?
Well, you all expect fans to show up, but after looking at the evidence, they'll have already decided to see the Busters instead.
Oh, meanie. I wish you were banned.